More than 175,000 marijuana convictions have been forgiven in the state of Maryland. Democratic Governor Wes Moore signed a mass pardon today for low-level charges impacting an estimated 100,000 people. It is the largest state-level pardon that we have seen in this kind in U.S. history. So given what you were seeing there, I want to go straight to the source on what that moment was like with Maryland Governor Wes Moore, who joins me now. And Governor, you used an orange pen as you were there signing these mass pardons that was handed to you by a man who also received a pardon today. What drove you to do this now?
This meant so much because, I mean, this was a great day, not just for the individuals and the families. This was an important day for the soul of our state. And, you know, they've been going on, the Last Prisoner Project has actually been going around the country and asking individuals who are still languishing, still dealing with the impact of cannabis convictions, and asking them to write letters to lawmakers, telling their stories and asking lawmakers to act on it. And so when they came in today, and they were very helpful with us throughout this whole process, and they came in and they said, you know, we'd love for you to be able to sign the pardon, the mass pardon, the largest mass pardon of its kind in our nation's history. With that pen, I was speechless, and I told him I would be honored to. So that pardon, now basically pardoning over 175,000 convictions for misdemeanor cannabis charges. I signed with their pen that they've been going around the country asking families to write their stories. And so it was a pretty remarkable moment.
Well, and a big part of what you focused on today, I was watching when you came out and made this announcement, was how disproportionately that people of color were affected by the war on drugs. And just, you know, when you were elected, we covered how historic that was. You're Maryland's first Black governor. And so I wonder what it meant to you, for you, to actually be the person who was signing this.
You know, we saw how the war on drugs was intentionally discriminatory. And, you know, you just have to look at the state of Maryland. In the state of Maryland, we have 24 jurisdictions in our state. But if you just take a look at 3 of them, just Baltimore City, Baltimore County, and Prince George's County, they represented about half of the cannabis convictions in the entire state. 3 jurisdictions represented half of the cannabis convictions. And it just so happened that those 3 jurisdictions are majority Black or majority communities of color. And so you watch how there was a measure of intentionality, how cannabis was used as this cudgel, how cannabis was used as a way of being able to eliminate people from larger conversations. And so the ability to now sign this mass pardon, to be able to know that equity is going to be at the center of this, because if we really want to be a state that focuses on pathways to work and wages and wealth for all communities and not just some, it means you had to stop putting up these barriers for people to be able to participate, especially when we're talking about an industry that is a burgeoning multi-billion-dollar industry, but we still had people who could not get home loans and could not go to school and get student loans. This is the type of thing that we had to be as intentional in our approach to be able to fix this as the policies were intentional to be able to create these type of gaps.
Well, given, you know, what you say about it being, you know, this multi-billion-dollar industry and how much money it's been able to make a lot of states, do you believe that it should be legalized on the federal level?
Yeah, and I think if you look at where voters are, I mean, just take a look at our state. You know, our state put it up for a referendum and asked the people, do you think there needs to be a recreational cannabis market? And by about 70%, the people of my state said yes, that we need to decriminalize cannabis and then we need to turn into recreational cannabis. And so over the process of the past 18 months, that's exactly what our administration has been working on, where we have created what many believe to be the most equitable, the most fair, and the most smooth transition into a recreational cannabis market that this country has seen. But the thing that I knew going into this was this: we cannot talk about the benefits of legalization if you do not wrestle with the consequences of criminalization. You know, we've had 174 social equity applicants. We are creating new pathways to wealth for African Americans and people of color in the cannabis industry, but we still had people who had cannabis records that was keeping them from being able to be part of that process.
Yeah.
Because of today's action, that's now gone.
Well, and I mean, politically, what you did today would have been unthinkable, I think, for a lot of governors 20 years ago. I mean, it was 2010 when Biden President Biden referred to marijuana as a gateway drug, a sentiment that I should note he walked back during the 2020 campaign. But given that, I mean, do you believe, would you like to see it legalized on the federal level?
Yes, I would like to see every single state taking this on. I know right now we cannot move to a point where we can have true measures of economic growth, a true equity lens in the way we're looking at economic competitiveness. And frankly, even if you look at things like the racial wealth gap has cost this country $16 trillion in GDP over the past 2 decades. That's not GDP of a group. That's GDP. And we're losing competitiveness because we not have an economy that is actually a participatory economy. So I want for each of our states, I want for all of us to be able to understand that we have a unique opportunity to right historic wrongs. And this becomes our obligation for those who are sitting in these seats to make sure that those individuals and those communities that have been disproportionately harmed from a failed war on drugs, that they know that this is our chance to get this right. And we're not going to miss this moment to do so.
Yeah. Governor, while I have you, let me ask you about an important election that is happening in your state, because after Trump was convicted in New York, your predecessor, Larry Hogan, who is now running for Senate, as we were just talking about, he asked for all Americans to respect the verdict. It seemed pretty simple, but he was widely criticized by Trump allies. And he's not wavering, though. He said a new ad tonight that he'll be an independent voice if he's in the Senate. And I just wonder, when you see how Larry Hogan responds to that kind of pressure from Republicans, do you believe that there should be more people like that with that kind of view in Washington?
Well, so I think the old governor is a nice guy. I also know this is going to be very difficult because I think some of the things that we've seen even over these past months are the things that people just dislike about politics, where you say you're not going to run for Senate and you don't want to be in a useless body and be one of 100 who does nothing. And then the day of the filing deadline, you announce you're running for Senate, that you were recruited by Mitch McConnell, you were endorsed by Donald Trump, you've said you're going to caucus with the Republicans as you get to the Senate, but then you turn around and call yourself an independent voice. That you are saying you're pro-choice now. But the truth is, when you were the governor and when you actually had the authority to do something about Roe v. Wade, and when Roe v. Wade fell under his watch, he did things like vetoed bills that would enhance privacy, vetoed bills that would enhance protection. On my first day as the governor, I had to release $3.5 million of previously unreleased funds because the old governor would not release them. And so I just think right now the back and forth is actually the thing that really frustrates people about politics, about not knowing where you are. And I know he just received the endorsement of Donald Trump, but my endorsement is going to Angela Alsobrooks, the person who he is running against, the county executive of Prince George's County, and she has a track record of actually bringing crime down inside of the neighborhoods while she was the state's attorney. She has a track record of building 10 new schools while she was the county executive of Prince George's County. I trust her. I trust her vision. I trust her consistency. And that's why I'm supporting her to be Maryland's next senator.
Yeah. So you don't actually think he would be the independent voice that he's saying. Governor, it's great to have you, especially on that big announcement today. Also, we didn't talk about your other big announcement, which is that you declared yesterday Maggie Rogers Day, who is one of my favorite artists. And we really enjoyed that. She's the best. So, Governor, great to have you. And maybe we'll get you on with Maggie Rogers next time.
And she's a great Marylander. She's a great Marylander. We're all very proud of her.
Thank you, Governor.